This is Ezra Black from Mindful.org. Theo Koffler is the founder of Mindfulness Without Borders, a non-profit organization that teaches youth and educators to overcome stress, anxiety, fear, and violence through the practice of mindfulness. They operate in many troubled communities around the world. We spoke to Koffler about the founding of the organization, her personal experience with meditation, and their new venture in New Jersey.
Well, I have to give you a little bit of background history. When I graduated from university, I went into my father's business, which is Shoppers Drug Mart. And I did so because I had a long time yearning to continue the Koffler name in business, because my dad was an only child, and he lost his parents at 17 and 19. And one year, I guess it was in 1978, my father went to Israel and attended the Second Economic Conference. And Finance Minister Sapir said, we would prefer you to bring your business know-how and help us westernize our business practices and move us out of, the black market, the more Levantine kind of standard, and move country into North American business practices. And my father was part of that crowd, and he thought to himself, I can do that. Rather than give money, he'd send his kids over, and they would start and develop Shoppers Drug Mart in Israel. And both my brother Leon and I were working in Shoppers Drug Mart in Canada, and he came back just charged. And I'll never forget the day he said to me, Theo, if you want to do something like I did in Canada, you should go to Israel. So off we went. I went in 1979. My brother followed a year later, and we developed Shoppers Drug Mart in Israel. And I lived in Israel for 13 years. And of those 13 years, I had to get used to, coming out of Canada, an entirely different way of life. Forget the have-nots. That wasn't the issue. But I moved into an environment where there was conflict and war, and every day I was confronted with images and the news that people were killed and there was violence on the streets. And it was that radical shift in what my reality was in life that started me to think that what's my role in bringing peace in a very small way to Israel. During those 13 years, it became increasingly difficult to manage the conflict within me. I felt that us and them paradigm, that Israel versus Arab paradigm, was exactly that which continued the conflict, and that until people could appreciate their common humanity, then there wouldn't be change. There would be no hope for peace. So in 1993, when there was a war, it brought me to a very clear realization that I couldn't do this any longer, and actually I didn't even want to subject my kids to the war and to this kind of violence. As it happened, I actually got sick. I got something called lupus. And that was what triggered me to my mindfulness. And it also was exactly that which recognized that not only was I dealing with the issue of conflict and violence in an external way, but actually it became part of who I was. And the lupus, I don't know if you know anything about it, but it's inflammation of the joints. There I am in a country that's inflamed with conflict, and now it became part of who I was, and there I am dealing with inflammation of my own joints, and showing me completely that I was sort of out of location. To tell you the truth, when I first was diagnosed with lupus, I don't think I ever thought I'd be here today to speak with you. And I would have never anticipated that getting so sick would have been such an opportunity for transformation. That getting sick was the trigger, so to speak, to start to look at my own life in relationship to my well-being, and also in relationship to the well-being of the people that, I was living with. So that's how, historically, I came into creating Mindfulness Without Borders. At the time I was married, and we came to California for a year away in order for me to try to heal and use alternative approaches to well-being to manage my health issues. So my practice began, in Spirit Rock, and when did we move? In 1993. I used Spirit Rock as, and Vipassana meditation as my leaders in this work. And when my husband, who is Israeli, wanted to go back to Israel, I just said I couldn't. I needed to stay put. And as I started to heal, so did the ideas of Mindfulness Without Borders start to flourish. And I knew that one day I'd come back with a conversation that helped support individuals to navigate more skillfully through, those kinds of environments where peace is not the order. And so I started to research what that conversation looked like, and both mindfulness-based education and social and emotional learning came to the forefront. And here I am today working in primarily communities that have been afflicted by conflict. We first started in Rwanda, and we worked Rwanda, Nigeria, and Uganda. We did research in Israel and Palestinian territories, and we have university programs there. So how did we get to New Jersey? We decided to move to North America and do programs on the East and West Coast. Very fortunately, a wonderful colleague of mine, Adam Engel, the co-founder of Mind and Life Institute, had mentioned that there's this Newark Peace Education Summit, and we should consider being there. And within time, we were invited to platform our work there and do a workshop. We have a program called the Mindfulness Ambassador Council, where we bring students together 12 times and we talk about life and leadership skills and basic mindfulness practices to help them address their everyday lives. And a wonderful woman named Stephanie Jelly, she participated in our workshop, and she came up to me afterwards. I don't think I'll forget it. She said, "This is going to work for us. Our community works with gangs, and this is the kind of conversation I really believe they need." And I said, let's do it, because if there's one thing that I like is to come back to a place where in this instance offered such a beautiful platform for people that are advocates for peace and social justice. And the youth that we're working with are shaped by, their past experience because of violence or genocide or, armed conflict, or work in Uganda with ex-child soldiers. And the mindfulness piece is what we talk about as a way to honor their history, but bring them into the present moment. What space, what silence, what pause does, and in terms of creating an inner peace. Had I not had the experience I had in my own meditation practice, I don't think I could be doing this.